In this alternate 1879, the Zulu Kingdom does more than destroy a British camp at Isandlwana. A second British position at Rorke's Drift also falls, forcing an invasion army to confront the possibility that its supply line has disappeared. Historically, the Zulu victory at Isandlwana on the 22nd of January 1879 was followed by a British defense at Rorke's Drift. In this speculative timeline, a better informed Zulu force reaches the mission station earlier and captures its supplies. The change does not make Britain powerless. It gives King Cetshwayo a narrow opening to seek a peace that preserves Zululand before a larger imperial response can arrive. Survival, not conquest, becomes the real prize. In the late 1870s, the Zulu Kingdom was an independent African state with a cattle-based economy, strong political institutions, and an army organized through age regiments. It was powerful, but not insulated from colonial pressure. British officials pursued a South African confederation that would bring settler colonies, Boer republics, and African states under a common imperial order. Independent Zululand stood in the way of that plan. Sir Henry Bartle Frere issued Cetshwayo an ultimatum in late 1878, including demands that would dismantle the Zulu military system. Its rejection gave the colonial government the pretext it wanted for invasion. In January 1879, Lord Chelmsford led 3 British columns into Zululand. The central column camped near Isandlwana, depending on long supply routes and assumptions about the enemy it had underestimated. Chelmsford divided his forces while seeking the Zulu army, leaving the Isandlwana camp with weak defenses. That historical mistake created the conditions for one of Britain's most shocking colonial defeats. On the 22nd of January, around 20,000 Zulu warriors attacked. Their formations closed on the camp through grass and dust, overwhelming British resistance at Isandlwana. Our divergence occurs immediately afterward. A fictional reconnaissance report reaches Ncingwayo Kamahole early, explaining that Rorke's Drift is not merely a mission station, but a vital British crossing and supply depot. He sends fresh elements of the Zulu force toward Rorke's Drift before the British can reinforce it. The goal is supplies and a river crossing, not an endless pursuit of a defeated army. In this speculative version, the small garrison is overwhelmed before its defenses are fully prepared. The station falls, and its stores become a powerful signal that the British invasion's logistics can be broken. Chelmsford's returning column faces a supply crisis. It abandons equipment, crosses the Buffalo River in haste, and regroups inside Natal, rather than attempting a dramatic march deeper into Zululand. The news unsettles Natal. Settlers, African communities, and colonial officials all face uncertainty, but no single population responds in the same way. Some flee, some trade, and some wait to see which authority will hold. In London, the double disaster becomes a political crisis. Parliament questions the cost of Frere's policy and Chelmsford's command, while ministers weigh reinforcements against the danger of a longer war. Cetshwayo gains prestige, but victory also raises expectations. Regiments want recognition, local leaders want security, and families need cattle, crops, and labor restored after mobilization. Britain can still send more troops, yet another campaign would be expensive and politically damaging. Colonial officials therefore open talks, seeking a settlement that protects Natal without admitting total defeat. The Zulu Royal Council debates its own choices. Some leaders favor pressing the advantage, others argue that a treaty is safer than provoking the full weight of the empire. The victory does not end disagreement. In this alternate timeline, the fictional Treaty of Mul Valley is signed late in 1879. Britain recognizes a protected Zulu sovereignty in exchange for border guarantees, limited diplomacy, and commercial access, not a sweeping Zulu empire. The treaty leaves difficult compromises. Britain retains influence through trade and neighboring colonies, while Cetshwayo must prevent rival chiefs, settlers, and outside agents from turning every frontier dispute into a new war. The defeat damages Britain's confidence in rapid conquest, but it does not stop imperial expansion across Africa. In this scenario, London leans more often on commercial pressure, treaties, and local allies, where military campaigns look costly. Other powers take notice as well. German and Portuguese agents seek influence through ports, concessions, and alliances, while African leaders make their own calculations about whether engagement or distance offers more security. Cetshwayo cautiously supports reforms in cattle care, grain storage, diplomatic training, and controlled commerce. These measures strengthen the kingdom slowly, but they also redistribute work, and provoke arguments about royal authority. The Zulu example influences neighboring peoples without making them followers. Pedi, Swazi, Tswana, and others reinforce defenses or pursue their own bargains according to local interests and threats. Southern Africa develops as a contested patchwork rather than the Union of South Africa known in our history. Independent African kingdoms, settler governments, and British protectorates all compete, and no map can make their borders stable. Cetshwayo's later challenge is succession. A kingdom preserved by wartime unity must now manage factions, unequal wealth, and the fear that any disputed transfer of power will invite outside intervention. By the early 20th century, Zululand is a regional player with markets, schools, and trade links, but also deep disputes over land, labor, taxation, and the place of a traditional monarchy in an industrializing region. In the decades that follow, the kingdom preserves internal autonomy through shifting treaties, not permanent security. Its royal guard remains ceremonial and defensive, while civilian politics increasingly determine whether the state can pay its way. The region avoids one exact version of white minority union, but not inequality. Land claims, labor demands, and discrimination survive in different forms, forcing governments and communities to bargain rather than assuming justice follows independence. By the 1960s, Southern Africa is a mosaic of states, protectorates, and contested borders. The Zulu Kingdom is sometimes a stabilizing broker, sometimes a rival, and often constrained by decisions made far beyond its borders. Industrial development brings rail lines, mines, ports, and wage labor. The kingdom seeks revenue from trade and migration, but dependence on outside capital creates new inequalities that traditional authority cannot solve alone. During the Cold War, outside powers court governments across the region. Border disputes and security spending pressure the Zulu state, whose military tradition deters some threats but drains money from schools, health, and infrastructure. Education expands unevenly. Zulu language, history, and cultural practice remain central in schools, alongside technical subjects that prepare students for a changing economy and for debates they inherit rather than choose. In the 21st century, Isandlwana and the fictional fall of Rorke's Drift remain powerful national memories. They are remembered through ceremonies and argument, not as proof that history ended, but as a warning about what independence costs. This alternate Zulu kingdom is not a utopia or a global power. It is a resilient state whose survival reshapes Southern African choices, while leaving its people to confront inequality, climate, and regional rivalry on their own terms. A single fictional decision after Isandlwana could not erase imperial power. But it might have changed the terms on which Zululand and its neighbors entered the modern world. This has been Historic's Vault.